everybody, and welcome to HardAssetsInvestor.com. I'm Mike Norman, your host. My guest today is Sean Hyman, editor of MoneyNews Wealth Report. Sean, thanks very much for coming back on the show.
Good to be here.
So it's a new year. How about we take a look at your outlook on commodities for 2013? I think you have somewhat of a bullish outlook, if I'm not mistaken.
I do, yeah. I think the CRB index is finally going to tick up and have an up year. It was a bit flat last year. I think you're going to see a downtick in the dollar. I think we'll see the dollar index make it down to about 74 or so over the next year, and so that's going to give commodities a boost as the dollar falls. Very bullish on the metals, bullish on oil, and contrary to popular belief, starting to get bullish on coal as well.
Now, coal's been kind of in the doldrums for a while, related, I guess, to weakness in the Chinese, relative weakness in the Chinese economy. What's your bullish arguments for coal?
Yeah, China had pulled back. Of course, we're using less of it here in the U.S., so we're definitely very bearish in our Western views here. But China is starting to tick back up in its GDP growth. You're starting to see the emerging markets pick back up in their growth, and they still need a lot of cheap energy to fuel that growth. Coal is their answer there. Japan, as soon as the nuclear issue went haywire on them, they've started to ramp back up in their use of coal, and Europe is still ramping up their use of coal as well. So even though we've tapered it back, there's a lot of the rest of the world that's starting to taper it back up, and so I believe that's going to support coal here and head coal higher into the latter part of 2013, early 2014.
So what's the best way to play it? If you have, if you're talking to somebody who might be interested in getting involved in coal, what would be the best way to go about that?
There's a couple ways. You can just go the simple route and go with the coal ETF, KOL. Or you can go with Peabody Energy, something like that, and get a little bit of a dividend as well, symbol BTU. That's the one I like better. But either one of those would do it.
Now, you mentioned metals. Are we bullish now across the board? Are you talking about precious metals, industrial metals, or the whole entire spectrum?
And, I'm bullish on pretty much all metals. I do think that platinum and palladium will fare better than gold, although I'm bullish on gold as well. I think gold's still going to go back to $1,900, $2,000 an ounce. This year. But I think platinum is going to beat it there. It is. I think platinum's going to beat it there. I think platinum heads to 2,000 plus. And palladium could definitely go well into the high 800s as well.
Now, what's going to break it out of its range? Because, we've seen things quiet down. The crisis in Europe basically has abated. The ECB now backstopping the entire banking system over there. We have growth here in the United States, although that's kind of slow at present. But what is going to be the impetus to push gold out of its current range?
To me, a lot of it is what the central banks are doing right now. The central banks are starting to get more aggressive in trying to devalue their currencies, not just here in the U.S., which we have the habitual, we're constantly doing there, but also like in Japan. I mean, if I were a Japanese citizen, I would not want to hold yen right now. I would want to be holding more gold because they're aggressively devaluing their currency there.
Well,
and even
the
Swiss
currency's
are trying
going
to talk
down.
as well.
I mean, I see that. The yen has fallen quite a bit, but the Bank of Japan hasn't done anything. And in fact, they said that any further QE will happen in 2014, if it happens at all. I look at this whole yen sell-off and kind of left scratching my head because they really haven't done anything except talk. That's enough?
Well, a lot of the bearishness has come from Abe, and of course that negative talk that he's had basically, and trying to stoke inflation has caused their currency to head lower. But their central banker is resigning in a few weeks, and Abe's going to get his pick basically of somebody that sees more eye to eye than he does, and so I believe that you're going to see a lot more pressure on the yen in 2013, 2014. There's more to come.
All right, so what about, here in the United States, we've avoided austerity. We've seen the effects of austerity in Europe. It's been devastating, economic rolling recessions, very high unemployment. We're bringing it here. Now, the sequester, spending cuts this year, isn't that going to have a negative growth effect here in the United States? And if so, how does that tie in to the strong commodity outlook?
It will. I think the U.S. is going to slow down. I don't think our markets are going to perform as well as a lot of other markets. I think they'll do okay. I'm still mildly bullish on our U.S. stock markets, but I think you're going to see a lot more resurgence in Chinese stocks, Indian stocks, a lot more growth there as well. So India's growth is stabilized in the 5s, and I expect that to pick up. China's back up in 7.9% GDP growth, and I think that's going to go into the 8s. So, so a lot of the growth in India, China, even Brazil, I think is going to pick back up. A lot of these emerging markets are going to be the resurgence in commodities, a lot more so than the U.S. is.
Now, let's talk a little bit about oil, where recently I've noticed that Saudi output has come down, maybe a reflection of weaker demand. I mean, you're bullish on oil, but yet that might suggest that the situation is not that firm.
I'm bullish on oil because the Saudi Arabian and a lot of the Middle East, their break-even costs keep going up on oil. So, right now Saudi Arabia needs usually between 80 and 90, more like along the lines of $90 a barrel oil. And it's projected that it's going to go up. In the next few years, they're going to need $100, $110 a barrel oil. And so I think they're going to do anything within their power to make sure that ends up happening. So I think oil is a no-brainer trade just because I believe the Middle East are going to basically make it to where they can for sure meet their demands for what they need to make their budgets because they don't want any more of these Arab Springs, right?
So just stay long oil, be patient. The price is going to trend higher. Mm-hmm. Now, last year we had a bright spot in the commodity markets in the grains, but obviously that was driven by weather factors, drought. What do you see happening this year?
It's a little bit hard to tell. They did experience a big boost last year, so I'm not sure just yet if I'm going to be bullish on them this year or not. They could have another tick higher. If so, it's going to cause a lot of problems again, probably in the Middle East and a lot of poorer countries where they really are. The food costs are such a critical issue. Eventually, though, we're going to have higher food costs and higher fuel costs coming both at the same time here in the U.S. That's going to hit the middle part of America quite hard, I believe.
Are you concerned at all? There's been talk about the Fed maybe at some point this year reversing its policy of accommodation, and if that happens, won't that have a negative effect on some of these commodity markets? I personally don't think it's going to happen, but the talk is out there.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Obviously, it would have some effect on commodities, but I think really the biggest driver of commodities will be the resurgence in China, honestly.
And you expect that to continue?
I do.
And that's because you're seeing more loan growth, policy in China now getting back to where they're more aggressive in terms of lifting the economy back up?
Yep, the loan growth is up. The GDP is starting to tick up. Your manufacturing and services data in China is starting to pick back up. So I think they've made the turn. I think India is in the turn and about to make the turn as well. As soon as you get those two big, huge countries fully headed in the right direction, lots of demands coming back for commodities. So,
but your number one pick, it seems, is coal, right?
It's my number one contrarian pick.
Contrarian pick,
sure.
Just because basically the view out there is quite bearish.
Yeah, who believes in coal right now? Almost nobody. Yeah. So.
All right, good. And how about on the more bearish side? Which should we stay away from, or maybe try to go short?
I'm still bullish most commodities right now because I feel that the dollar's about to take its next leg lower. So the things that I would be more cautious on are the grains. I am cautious on things like soybeans, wheat, corn, that sort of thing. I'm not sure how much upside they have left. They may have one more pop up before they roll over, but that's what I think is a bit long in the tooth.
All right, cautious on grains, bullish on coal and industrials and metals. Mm-hmm. Great, fantastic. Sean, great to see you.
Great to be here.
Thanks very much. That's it for now, folks. This is Mike Norman saying see you next time. Bye-bye.